The stars were especially bright that night as Commander John Miller stared up at the sky from the observation deck of the United States Space Force Orbital Station. 20 years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts, and something didn't feel right. The deep space scanners had been picking up unusual energy signatures for the past week, patterns that didn't match any known cosmic phenomena or human technology. "Commander, you should see this," said Lieutenant Amy Ross, interrupting his thoughts. She handed him a tablet displaying the latest sensor readings. John frowned as he studied the data. The anomalies were getting stronger and appeared to be moving in a coordinated pattern near Neptune's orbit. "Have we shared this with NASA yet?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Dr. Wright is already analyzing the data." Dr. Lisa Wright had been working for 72 hours straight at NASA's Deep Space Communication Array in New Mexico. As the lead astrophysicist for the department, strange signals fell squarely into her area of expertise. She rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. "This can't be right," she muttered to herself. The signals they were receiving showed clear signs of artificial origin. They contained mathematical sequences too precise to be natural, and exhibited patterns consistent with deliberate communication. Someone or something was sending messages toward Earth. Lisa picked up her phone and called her supervisor, Dr. Frank Peters. "Frank, I need you to look at these signal patterns. I think we might be detecting non-human communication." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "That's a very serious claim, Lisa. Are you absolutely certain?" "The patterns are unmistakable. These signals contain prime number sequences, mathematical constants, and what appears to be a form of binary language. Nature doesn't communicate like that." 4 hours later, Lisa found herself in a secure conference room surrounded by government officials, military personnel, and fellow scientists. Commander Miller had been called in from the space station and sat across from her, his expression grave. "So what you're telling us," said General William Carter, "is that aliens are sending messages to Earth?" Lisa nodded. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And based on the signal strength and direction, whatever is sending them is getting closer." Most of the officials looked skeptical. A few exchanged knowing glances that suggested they might have more information than they were sharing. "Dr. Wright," said a woman in a dark suit who had only identified herself as Ms. Daniels from the National Security Council, "have you been able to decipher any of these communications?" "Partially. They appear to be a form of introduction and notification. From what we can tell, they're announcing their intention to enter our solar system." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. Commander Miller raised his hand. "Our deep space scanners have detected unusual energy signatures consistent with propulsion technology far beyond our capabilities. Whatever is coming, it's moving fast and with purpose." General Carter looked around the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we need to prepare for humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. God help us all." While Earth's leaders scrambled to prepare for possible alien contact, far beyond their solar system, a very different meeting was taking place. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council spanned 500 meters in diameter, its crystal dome revealing the spectacular swirl of a nearby nebula. Around a massive circular table sat representatives of 27 advanced civilizations, each with unique physiologies and cultures, but unified in their governance of known space. High Arbiter Zextar, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and 6 elongated fingers on each hand, called the emergency session to order. Its voice resonated through the chamber with a musical quality that the translation systems converted for each species present. "Esteemed members of the Council, we face an unexpected development in Sector 7191, commonly known as the Sol System. The developing species on the third planet has advanced far more rapidly than our models predicted." Holographic displays appeared before each council member, showing Earth's recent technological developments, population growth, and resource consumption patterns. "As you can see," continued Zextar, "the humans have progressed from basic radio technology to rudimentary space travel and quantum computing in less than a century. Their theoretical work on faster-than-light travel has already identified 3 of the 5 principles necessary for dimensional folding." Councillor Drav, representing the ancient Muvari collective, raised a tentacle in objection. This is precisely why we established the quarantine protocols for developing worlds. Earth should remain isolated until they have achieved the proper cultural and ethical advancement to match their technological capabilities. I disagree, countered Counselor Alara of the Proxima Alliance. Her humanoid features were set in a determined expression. Their creativity and adaptability could make them valuable allies. We should initiate contact before they develop interstellar capabilities on their own. The debate continued for hours, with various factions arguing for approaches ranging from immediate sterilization to full diplomatic recognition. Finally, High Arbiter Zextar called for a vote. The Council has decided. Earth will be approached for evaluation and potential membership. Ambassador Krell will lead the first contact delegation. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped a figure that even among the diverse assembly stood out. Ambassador Krell stood nearly 8 feet tall, with dark gray skin and eyes that shifted color with its thoughts. As the Council's most experienced diplomat for primitive worlds, it had overseen the integration of 17 species into the galactic community. I accept this honor, said Krell, its voice surprisingly gentle for its imposing size. However, I must note that my preliminary analysis suggests the humans may present unique challenges. They are remarkably determined and show unusual resistance to outside influence. Your concerns are noted, Ambassador, replied Zextar. However, the Council has spoken. Prepare your team for immediate departure. As the meeting adjourned, Counselor Drav approached Ambassador Krell privately. Be cautious with these humans, the ancient being whispered. Our deep historical records suggest they may be descendants of the Lost Ones. Krell's eyes flashed with surprise. The warrior race? Impossible. They were quarantined on a prison world millions of years ago. So we believed. Yet their genetic patterns show disturbing similarities. If they are indeed the children of the Lost Ones, they may not respond to integration as other species have. On Earth, unaware of the momentous decisions being made about their future, Lisa Wright continued to analyze the incoming signals with growing concern. As the patterns became clearer, she realized they weren't just announcing their arrival. They were announcing humanity's evaluation. Commander Miller received her urgent call at 300 hours. John, these signals, they're not just saying hello. They're discussing Earth like it's some kind of test subject. I think we're in serious trouble. As dawn broke over the horizon, a small, sleek vessel entered Earth's atmosphere without triggering any defense systems, heading directly for New York City and humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council that would change everything forever. The alien ship landed smoothly on the carefully trimmed lawn of the United Nations headquarters in New York. It was smaller than most people expected, about the size of a city bus, with a sleek silver surface that seemed to shimmer in the morning sunlight. Within minutes, the area was surrounded by military personnel, scientists, and government officials from around the world. News helicopters circled overhead as billions watched the live stream, united in breathless anticipation of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. Captain Susan Baker stood at attention near the front of the reception committee. As the leader of the newly formed UN Space Defense Initiative, she had been chosen to represent Earth's military forces. Her hand rested lightly on her sidearm, a gesture that her superiors had approved despite concerns about appearing hostile. Susan knew that showing both respect and readiness was important for this historic moment. Beside her stood Dr. Paul Johnson, sweating slightly in his formal suit. As one of Earth's foremost linguists and cultural anthropologists, he had been preparing for this moment his entire career, though he never truly believed it would happen. Stay calm, Susan whispered to him, noticing his nervous fidgeting. Remember, your training. Paul nodded, clutching his advanced translation tablet. It's just, this changes everything we know about our place in the universe. A seam appeared in the smooth hull of the alien vessel, widening into a doorway. A ramp extended to touch the ground. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a tall figure emerged. Ambassador Krell stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Its 4 eyes, 2 large ones where a human's would be, and 2 smaller ones above them, scanned the gathered crowd. It wore what appeared to be a formal robe with intricate patterns that shifted colors subtly as it moved. "Greetings, people of Earth," Krell spoke in perfect English, its voice deep and melodious. "I am Ambassador Krell, representative of the Galactic Council. We have been observing your world for some time and have decided the moment is right for formal introduction." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "Ambassador Krell, on behalf of all humanity, welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence and eager to establish peaceful relations with the Galactic Council." Krell's upper eyes blinked in what might have been amusement. "The honor is ours. Your species has shown remarkable progress in recent decades. The Council has voted to invite Earth to send representatives to our central chambers for formal evaluation and potential membership." The word evaluation sent a chill down Susan's spine. Something about the ambassador's tone didn't sit right with her. Later that day, in a secure conference room deep beneath the UN building, Earth's leaders debated how to respond to the invitation. "This is the opportunity of a millennium," argued the representative from India. "Access to their technology could solve our energy crisis, cure diseases, end poverty. Or it could be a trap," countered the Russian delegate. "We know nothing about this council or their true intentions." Susan cleared her throat. "If I may, we should accept the invitation, but with caution. I recommend a small delegation with representatives from different fields: science, diplomacy, military. We need to learn more before making any commitments." After hours of debate, they reached a consensus. Earth would send 7 representatives to the Galactic Council: Captain Susan Baker, Dr. Paul Johnson, Dr. Lisa Wright, who had first detected the alien signals, a diplomat from China, a representative from the African Union, a European Union official, and a South American scientist. They had 3 days to prepare for a journey that would take them farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled. While the official preparations continued, Lisa Wright worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing data from the alien vessel. Something about the Council's sudden interest in Earth bothered her. Why now? What had changed to draw their attention? She accessed Deep Space Telescope archives, examining the area where the alien signals had originated. As she enhanced and filtered the images, she noticed something disturbing: evidence of massive energy emissions consistent with large-scale destruction. Lisa cross-referenced the coordinates with older stellar maps and made a chilling discovery. Where there had once been signatures indicating civilized worlds, now there was nothing but debris and radiation. The pattern was too consistent to be natural. With shaking hands, she downloaded her findings onto a secure data device. She needed to get this information to Captain Baker before they left. The day of departure arrived. The Earth delegation gathered at a special facility constructed for the occasion. Ambassador Krell had provided specifications for a larger transport vessel that would dock in Earth's orbit to take them to the Council homeworld. Susan stood in her dress uniform, a small bag containing personal items slung over her shoulder. Her superiors had insisted she go unarmed to avoid offending their hosts, a decision she strongly disagreed with. Paul Johnson stood nearby, reviewing alien language patterns on his tablet. The other delegates spoke quietly among themselves, a mixture of excitement and apprehension evident in their voices. Lisa Wright rushed in, looking disheveled and out of breath. "Captain Baker, I need to speak with you immediately. It's urgent." Susan followed her to a quiet corner. "What is it, Doctor?" "The Council, they're not telling us everything." Lisa handed her the data device. "I found evidence that several civilizations near our sector have disappeared after Council evaluation. Their worlds show signs of systematic destruction." Susan's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced. "Are you certain?" "The data patterns are clear. I've included everything on this device. Keep it hidden and review it when you can do so safely." Before Susan could respond, Ambassador Krell entered the room. "It is time, honored delegates of Earth. Your transport awaits." With practiced diplomacy, Susan concealed the data device in an inner pocket of her uniform. She rejoined the group, her face revealing nothing of the disturbing information she had just received. As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the larger transport vessel, Susan caught a final glimpse of Earth through a viewing port. Blue, beautiful, and suddenly very vulnerable. She silently promised to protect it, no matter what they discovered about the Galactic Council's true intentions. The shuttle doors sealed, and with a barely perceptible hum, they left Earth behind, heading toward an uncertain future among the stars. The journey to the Galactic Council's headquarters took 5 days in the alien vessel. For Earth's delegates, it was a time of wonder and growing unease. Through massive viewing windows, they witnessed the beauty of space in ways no human telescope had ever captured. They passed gas giants with rings of ice crystals that sparkled like diamonds and nebulae that painted the darkness with swirls of purple and gold. Captain Susan Baker kept her concerns hidden behind a mask of professional curiosity. Whenever possible, she studied the data Dr. Wright had given her, careful to do so only when alone in her private quarters. The evidence was troubling. Worlds that had vanished after council evaluations, civilizations that had simply ceased to exist. 2. The third day, Susan approached Dr. Paul Johnson as he stood mesmerized by a passing binary star system. "Paul, I need your linguistic skills," she said quietly. "How well can you pick up their languages?" Paul smiled, his excitement evident. "It's fascinating. Their translator technology is incredible, but I've been observing when they speak among themselves. I've already identified patterns in 3 distinct languages." "Good. I need you to listen carefully when they don't think we understand. Something isn't right about this invitation." Paul's smile faded. "What do you mean?" "Just trust me. Pay attention and report anything unusual." The council headquarters was beyond anything they had imagined. It wasn't a planet, but a massive ring structure built around a small sun, its inner surface covered with cities, forests, and oceans. Billions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked there. Ambassador Krell led them to their assigned living quarters in a tower overlooking a central plaza, where aliens of all descriptions gathered. "You will have 1 day to rest and acclimate," Krell informed them. "Tomorrow, formal introductions to the council will begin." After Krell left, Susan gathered the Earth delegation in a common area she had quickly checked for listening devices. "From now on, assume everything we say is being monitored. We're here to learn and represent Earth, but also to understand the Council's true intentions." The Chinese diplomat, Lin Wei, nodded in agreement. "I have noticed our hosts are generous with information about their technology but vague about their political structure, and they keep using that word, evaluation," added Maria Sanchez, the South American scientist. "What exactly are they evaluating us for?" The next morning, they were escorted to the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was enormous, with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time map of the galaxy. Around a circular table sat representatives of many alien species, each with unique appearances and technologies. High Arbiter Zexitar welcomed them with formal words that the translation devices rendered into each delegate's native language. "Representatives of Earth, we welcome you to the heart of galactic civilization. For millions of years, the Council has guided developing worlds toward peaceful integration into our community. Today begins your world's evaluation for potential membership." Susan stepped forward as Earth's designated speaker. "High Arbiter, we are honored by your welcome and eager to learn from your wisdom. Earth has much to offer in exchange for the knowledge we hope to gain." The formal speeches continued. For hours, Council members asked questions about Earth's government's technologies and cultural practices. The Earth delegation answered truthfully but carefully, following their agreed strategy of openness without revealing potential vulnerabilities. That evening, at a reception hosted by Counselor Ilara, the delegates mingled with representatives from various council species. Paul moved through the crowd, his translator device recording conversations while he appeared to simply admire the exotic food and drink offerings. Susan maintained a diplomatic presence, engaging with council members while observing their interactions. She noticed that several species seemed to treat others with subtle condescension, suggesting a hierarchy that wasn't officially acknowledged. when she found herself momentarily alone with Counselor Alara, a humanoid with silvery skin and eyes that reflected like mirrors. Susan took the opportunity to ask a direct question. "Counselor, I'm curious about the evaluation process. What criteria determine a species' readiness for membership?" Ilara's reflective eyes seemed to study Susan with increased interest. "The process considers many factors: technological advancement, cultural stability, population control, resource management, and most importantly, compatibility with council values. And if a species is found incompatible?" A slight pause. "Every species finds its proper place in the galactic order, Captain Baker. Some as full council members, others as protected associates." Later that night, Paul sought out Susan in a secure garden area where the ambient noise would make it difficult for listening devices to function properly. "I've been monitoring their private conversations," he whispered. "They're discussing Earth in concerning terms. They keep using a word that translates roughly as problematic or unpredictable." "What else?" Susan pressed. "There appears to be disagreement among council members about Earth. Some advocate for what they call preemptive measures, while others argue for guided development." Susan's expression darkened. "Guided development, that sounds like control. There's more. I overheard 2 junior officials discussing something called the Lost Ones. They seem to be drawing comparisons between human behavior patterns and this other species." The following day brought formal evaluation interviews. Council scientists questioned Maria about Earth's energy technologies. Military officials interrogated Susan about Earth's defensive capabilities. Diplomats probed Lin Wei about Earth's political divisions. During a break, Susan managed to access a public information terminal, using it to search for references to the Lost Ones. The system provided only vague historical references to a species that had been removed from active participation in galactic affairs due to incompatible developmental traits. That evening, the Earth delegation was invited to observe a council debate. Seated in a special gallery, they watched as representatives discussed the admission of another species from a distant system. Susan's blood ran cold as she listened to the proceedings. The species in question was praised for its compliance and acceptance of guidance. The terms of their admission included population management, resource allocation oversight, and cultural adjustment programs, all presented as benefits. When the vote came, it was unanimous in favor of admission. But Susan saw no representatives of the species itself participating in the decision that would determine their future. As they left the chamber, Susan noticed Paul hanging back, apparently admiring a piece of alien artwork. She knew he was listening to private conversations among departing council members. Later, in their quarters, the Earth delegation gathered again. "They're not offering membership," Susan said quietly. "They're offering subjugation dressed up as protection." Paul nodded grimly. "I heard them discussing Earth. They consider us dangerously independent and unpredictable. They mentioned our aggressive expansion tendencies and resistance to external authority as concerning traits." Maria looked troubled. "What do they plan to do about it?" "I don't know," Susan replied. "But whatever it is, Earth needs to be warned." Captain Susan Baker paced in her quarters, the gravity slightly lighter than Earth's, making her movements seem unusually fluid. The Earth delegation had been on the council ring world for 5 days now, and with each passing hour, her concerns grew stronger. They needed to warn Earth, but how? The aliens monitored all official communications. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It was Dr. Paul Johnson, looking tired but determined. "I've found something," he whispered as he entered. "The council is holding a closed session tomorrow. I overheard 2 junior officials discussing it. They're voting on Earth's status." Susan's expression hardened. "Do you know what options they're considering?" Paul nodded grimly. 3 paths, from what I could gather. Integration as a protected species with severe technological limitations imposed on us. Quarantine that would cut us off from space exploration for centuries, or... He hesitated. "Or what, Paul?" "Preemptive pacification." His voice dropped even lower. I've translated enough of their historical records to know what that means. They've wiped out species before, Susan. Entire civilizations deemed too unpredictable or dangerous to their established order. Susan closed her eyes briefly, absorbing this confirmation of her worst fears. We need to send a message home. Now. But how? They monitor the communication systems. We'll create a distraction, Susan said, her mind racing through possibilities. I noticed their main communication hub is on the lower level of the central administrative building. During tomorrow's reception before the closed session, I can create a diversion while you slip away. Paul looked uncertain. What kind of diversion? The kind that plays into their expectations of unpredictable humans, Susan said with a grim smile. The next morning, Susan gathered the Earth delegation for a final briefing in the gardens where ambient noise would mask their conversation. Today is crucial, she told them. We've learned the Council is voting on Earth's future without our input. Maria and Lynn, I need you to keep Counselor Alara engaged during the reception. Ask detailed questions about their energy systems. Ahmed, you and Kwame focus on Ambassador Krell. Paul and I have something we need to do. They all nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation without needing further explanation. The reception was held in a vast hall with transparent walls that offered breathtaking views of the ring world's artificial landscape. Hundreds of representatives from council species mingled, sampling exotic foods and beverages while discussing galactic politics. Susan had timed everything carefully. The closed council session would begin in exactly 45 minutes. She positioned herself near a group of high-ranking officials, Paul hovering nearby, pretending to be fascinated by a holographic display of the council's history. When the moment was right, Susan activated a small device she had constructed from components in her Earth communication equipment. It would create a temporary energy fluctuation, nothing dangerous, but noticeable to the Council's sensitive monitoring systems. She then approached High Arbiter Zexitar directly, bypassing the usual protocols. High Arbiter, she said loudly, drawing attention from nearby aliens. Before your closed session, Earth demands to know the true nature of your evaluation. We've discovered evidence of your preemptive pacification protocols. A hush fell over the nearby aliens. Zextar's iridescent skin flickered with what might have been surprise or alarm. Captain Baker, this is highly irregular. Is it true that your council has eliminated 17 species in the past millennium for failing to comply with your standards? Susan pressed, making the number up but watching reactions carefully. The energy fluctuation began at that moment, causing lights to flicker. Security personnel moved toward the source of the disturbance, exactly opposite from the direction Paul needed to go. As Susan continued her confrontation, deliberately playing into the Council's fears about human unpredictability, Paul slipped away unnoticed. The communication hub was surprisingly empty. Most personnel were at the reception or preparing for the closed session. Using techniques he had observed over the past days, Paul accessed a terminal. His linguistic skills allowed him to navigate the alien interface with reasonable efficiency. He attached the data device Lisa Wright had provided to Susan, which she had transferred to him that morning. It contained not only Lisa's research about the Council's past actions, but everything they had learned during their visit. Paul composed a simple message in English. Earth is in danger. Council views us as threat. Preparing intervention, possible invasion fleet. Time frame, 17 days. Prepare defense. Trust no Council representatives. He added all the data files, then hesitated over the send command. The transmission would be detected almost immediately. Could he route it through multiple systems to disguise its origin? He tried, fingers flying over the alien controls, applying patterns he had observed. In the reception hall, Susan's confrontation had escalated. Council security personnel surrounded her, while Ambassador Krell attempted to calm the situation. Captain Baker, you misunderstand our intentions, Krell said soothingly. The Council only seeks what is best for developing species like yours. By deciding our fate without our consent? Susan countered. By treating us as children to be controlled rather than equals to be respected? The High Arbiter stepped forward. Your species is not ready for the responsibilities of full council membership. Your behavior now only confirms this assessment. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Susan felt a surge of hope. Paul had succeeded in sending the message. Back on Earth, Colonel Eric Martinez sat in the Pentagon's newly established Alien Response Command Center. Military leaders from around the world were connected via secure video link, monitoring the limited communications from their delegation to the Galactic Council. "Sir, we're detecting an unauthorized transmission," a young lieutenant reported. "It's coming through on the quantum frequency the aliens used to contact us initially." "Put it through," Martinez ordered. The message appeared on their screens, followed by gigabytes of data files. Martinez read the simple warning message, his face growing grim. "Authenticate this," he commanded, "and someone get me the president. Now." As security teams analyzed the data, Martinez stared at the stark message. 17 days. If this was genuine, Earth had just over 2 weeks to prepare for a threat beyond anything humanity had ever faced. On the Council ring world, Paul was apprehended minutes after sending the transmission. He offered no resistance as they escorted him back to the reception hall where Susan was already being detained. "What have you done?" Ambassador Krell demanded, its usual diplomatic tone replaced by cold anger. "We've told our people the truth," Susan replied calmly. "That's all." The High Arbiter stepped forward, towering over the human delegates. "Your actions have forced our hand. The Council will now meet immediately to determine Earth's status." "And what about us?" Susan asked. "You will remain in containment until a decision is reached. Your behavior has demonstrated precisely why unguided species like yours present such difficulties." As Council security led them away, Susan and Paul exchanged a brief glance. The message was sent. Now Earth's fate rested in its own hands. Colonel Eric Martinez stood before the emergency meeting of world leaders, his uniform crisp, despite having worked for 48 hours straight. On the screen behind him, data from the message sent by Captain Baker and Dr. Johnson scrolled continuously. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we have 15 days remaining before the potential arrival of a Council fleet. Our analysis of the transmitted data suggests their technology is approximately 300 years ahead of our most advanced systems." The room was silent. The weight of his words hung in the air. "So what you're saying," the President of the United States finally spoke, "is that we cannot win a conventional military confrontation." "That is correct, Madam President. If we attempt to fight them on their terms, we will lose." The Chinese premier leaned forward. "Then what do you propose?" "Colonel?" Martinez smiled slightly. "That we fight them on our terms instead. The Council expects either surrender or a predictable defense. We need to show them something they've never seen before." For the next 2 weeks, Earth experienced an unprecedented level of global cooperation. Old enemies set aside decades of mistrust to work together. Scientists shared breakthroughs that had been carefully guarded national secrets. Military forces trained together for the first time. Dr. Lisa Wright led a team of physicists working around the clock to understand and adapt the alien communication technology. They discovered that the quantum signals used by the Council could be manipulated in ways the aliens might not expect. "They've been using these systems so long they've stopped looking for vulnerabilities," she explained to Colonel Martinez. "We've found at least 3. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, a strange fleet took shape. Rather than traditional weapons, platforms, they were massive communication arrays combined with quantum disruptors based on Dr. Wright's research. On the Council ring world, Captain Susan Baker and her team remained in comfortable but secure containment. They had been allowed to witness the Council's vote on Earth's fate via video link. The decision had been nearly unanimous. Earth was deemed too volatile for unrestricted development and would receive a stabilization intervention. A fleet was dispatched carrying technology that would disable Earth's more advanced systems and establish a permanent Council presence to guide human development along appropriate channels. "The stabilization is for your own benefit," Ambassador Krell told them afterward. "Your species will be protected from its own destructive tendencies. And if we refuse this protection? Susan asked. That would be most unfortunate, Krell replied. But the Council's decision is final. On the morning of the 17th day, Earth's unified defense force stood ready. Every satellite, radio telescope, and planetary defense system was aligned, according to a carefully coordinated plan. Civilian populations had been moved to shelters, not out of fear of alien weapons, but to clear the communication channels for what was to come. Colonel Martinez stood in the Global Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by military and scientific leaders from every major nation. They're here, announced the radar specialist. Multiple objects decelerating at the edge of our solar system. Martinez nodded. Right on schedule. Begin Phase 1. Across Earth, thousands of decoy transmitters activated simultaneously, each broadcasting signals mimicking military commands, defense activations, and weapons targeting. From orbit, Earth would appear to be preparing a massive, if primitive, military response. The Council fleet approached cautiously, their sensors detecting the flurry of activity. Phase 2, Martinez ordered. Dr. Wright activated her quantum disruption array. Using the vulnerabilities they had discovered, the system sent precisely calibrated interference patterns that would scramble the aliens' more sensitive instruments. On the lead Council vessel, confusion spread as systems began reporting contradictory information. Their sensors detected what appeared to be thousands of primitive missile launches, yet also registered energy buildups consistent with far more advanced weapons. This is unexpected, the fleet commander reported to the Council. The humans appear to have weapons technology that was not in our intelligence reports. Back on Earth, Martinez watched the Council fleet's approach slow dramatically. They're confused, he said with satisfaction. Now for Phase 3. This was the most crucial and risky part of the plan. Earth's massive communication arrays powered up to full capacity, focusing all their energy on a single transmission directly to the Council fleet and, simultaneously, to every major world in Council space. The message was simple but powerful, broadcast in both human languages and the Council's own communication codes that Dr. Wright had deciphered. Attention, Galactic Council. This is Earth's unified response. We have detected your fleet and understand your intentions. Be advised, Earth will not be subjugated. We seek peace and mutual respect with all species, but we will defend our sovereignty with every resource at our disposal. This is our sole warning. The transmission continued with data packets containing evidence of the Council's past actions against other species, their internal debates about Earth, and their plans for stabilization. All information gathered by the Earth delegation and sent in their warning message. Most critically, the broadcast included a carefully crafted demonstration. Using the quantum disruption technology, Earth temporarily disabled the propulsion systems of 3 smaller Council vessels. Not enough to endanger them, but enough to demonstrate capability. What are they doing? The Council fleet commander demanded as reports of the broadcast reaching Council worlds came in. They're exposing our deliberations to the entire galactic community. On multiple Council worlds, species that had long been treated as second-class members watched the broadcast with growing interest. Several that had been considering rebellion against Council authority saw in humanity a potential ally. In the Council chamber itself, pandemonium erupted as the broadcast played on every screen. Councillor Drav, who had originally warned against contacting Earth, addressed the High Arbiter. I warned you the humans might be descendants of the Lost Ones. This confirms it. They have their creativity, their unpredictability. What do you recommend? The High Arbiter asked, genuine uncertainty in its voice for perhaps the first time in centuries. That we reconsider our approach entirely. These humans will not be quietly controlled as others have been. On the lead Council vessel, the fleet, commander received new orders. Halt advance, initiate diplomatic contact, Council status, emergency reconsideration. In the Earth Command Center, cheers erupted as the alien fleet came to a complete stop just beyond Mars orbit. They're sending a transmission, reported the communications officer. They're requesting to open diplomatic negotiations. Colonel Martinez allowed himself a small smile. Put them through. When the connection opened, it wasn't Ambassador Krell who appeared. but High Arbiter Zextar itself. People of Earth, the High Arbiter began, its tone noticeably more respectful than before. The Council wishes to reconsider our approach to relations with your world. We propose the immediate return of your delegation and the establishment of direct diplomatic channels. Martinez looked around at the united leaders of Earth, receiving nods of approval. We accept the return of our people, he replied firmly. As for future relations, Earth is open to genuine diplomacy between equals. Nothing less will be acceptable. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council found itself negotiating with a species it had intended to control. And, across the galaxy, countless subjugated worlds looked to Earth with new hope. Captain Susan Baker and her team returned to a hero's welcome 3 days later. As their shuttle landed at the United Nations headquarters where the adventure had begun, Susan looked out at the cheering crowds. "You know," she said to Dr. Johnson, "I think the Council may have made a serious miscalculation when they decided to focus on Earth." Paul nodded. "They never understood what makes humans different." "And what's that?" Susan asked. Paul smiled. "We don't just accept the rules of the game. When necessary, we change them entirely."